All right, folks, it's that time of the week again. It's Thursday, and here we are with our friend Kendall Coffey. You know, Kendall, this is when you start feeling old, or when I start feeling old. I won't speak for you. The control room, they're so young in the control room. They said, "We have Mr. Coffey on the line." I said, "Oh, Joe DiMaggio?" And they looked at me like, "What?"
You know, I hate to say it, but that's one of the ways to measure the generations. Because, yeah, the original Mr. Coffey was the first coffee maker of its kind. Joe DiMaggio was the
Spokesman.
was a guy, the celebrity who kind of put Mr. Coffey on the map.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. So I shouted. I said, "Well, let's take it step by step. Do you know who Joe DiMaggio was?" And they all nodded yes. So that's something.
Okay.
That's something.
Okay, that's something. I'm glad they remember the Yankee Clipper. But boy, that's we are dating ourselves, Steve.
Yeah, we're dating ourselves. All right, let's start with the New York City Fire Department discrimination lawsuit. This is a lawsuit that's been going on for 7 years, and Bill de Blasio, the fine mayor of New York City, comes into office, and I had a feeling, as did many other people, that he would look to settle this suit. And basically, what it boils down to is $98 million are going to be divided among 1,500 minorities who took the New York City Fire Department test, two of them that were found to be biased against blacks and Hispanics. And there are also going to be $6 million for lost medical payments, fringe benefits, and these are people who were never hired as firemen. How a fireman's test could be deemed to be a bias against blacks and Hispanics in the first place, I have no idea. And now, in addition to the monetary, ruling, the judge said that the department has to hire a disproportionate amount of blacks and Hispanics above and beyond what they represent in the population to make up for all the years that there weren't any blacks and Hispanics, or not a lot being hired. They only make up about 4% of the fire department here in New York right now. I mean, to me, I've always felt, if blacks and Hispanics don't want to be firemen, then who cares? What difference does it make what percent are on the force? But anyway, this settlement is, to me, it's just it's bad news.
Well, it's a very sort of dramatic set of numbers, both with respect to the amount of money, as you say, $98 million in back pay, a lot of money on other things, and apparently the prospective hiring, the future hiring. I mean, there are a lot of people who want to apply to be a firefighter. It's probably harder to be a firefighter than it is to get into law school in most communities. It's a very admired profession, but it creates a lot of demands, both in terms of all the qualities a human being has to have: mental fitness, physical fitness. We know all about that. We also know it's one of the most hazardous of all professions. All that being said, the future hiring is apparently targeting levels of recruiting that are higher going forward than the numbers of blacks and Hispanics in the community.
Yeah.
So on a going forward basis, it's going to be, non-minority applicants are going to feel a sense of reverse discrimination. That's based on these numbers, pretty striking. Is it a justified settlement? Very hard to say without knowing all the details. But once the Department of Justice gets into a case, and apparently DOJ in 2007 sued the fire department based on the entrance exams, frankly, most parties cave, either quickly or eventually, but it's very hard to be fighting the United States of America. So don't know if that was a major factor in this. Obviously, it's a new mayor, but it is a settlement that is extraordinary in all respects. And, of course, it will put pressure on other governments, other departments to up the ante when they settle. If others are sued and settled, then you now have sort of like a new standard for settlement, $98 million in back pay. That just jumps off the page.
Yeah, I bet if they took a poll of everyone in the city, including blacks, and they said, who do you want to be a firefighter, they'd probably say the best and the strongest and the biggest and the fastest who could come up the ladder and get me out of a burning house, and they wouldn't care what color the person is. But like you said, it's all based on the premise that the test was a prejudice test, and I don't buy that, but that's not in the legal determination here. So, all right, let's move on. In Philadelphia, again, we could stick to New York with charter schools, but Mayor de Blasio, no fan of charter schools, and much to the chagrin of the many minorities who have voted for him, who are now going to have their kids kicked out of charter schools. But a charter school in Philadelphia is suing the school district of Philadelphia and its 5-member Executive School Reform Commission for suspending provisions of the Pennsylvania Public School Code. They say the lawsuit says that those suspensions jeopardize the existence of charter schools in Philadelphia.
Well, in this case, it looks like they got a fairly strong position. What they're saying is that an action was taken across the board that immediately, in effect, denies charter schools a reimbursement that they were previously entitled to. So they're saying lack of due process. For example, for one of the schools that's being reported, West Philadelphia Achievement, serves 600 students. Based on this action, only 400 students are going to be paid for, meaning what? You kick out 200 students?
Yeah. You
bankrupt the school because you're not compensating them for 1/3 of their students. So I think this is a lawsuit that's got more than legs. It's got arms, a head, and a heart.
That's a good one. I'm sure you've used that before, but I've never heard that one.
Steve, no, it's original with your show. I try to come up with new material for your show.
All right, well,
but it's a fair description.
Yeah, no, that's a very good description. All right, well, tell me about this one. A report that the Supreme Court, they'll finally hear all oral arguments in the Hobby Lobby and Conestoga Wood challenges to the contraception mandate of the Affordable Care Act. And Reuters and some others are saying that the justices may dodge the issue and get around it with a ruling, quote, that individuals who own closely held companies rather than the corporations themselves can argue their religious rights have been violated. How do you see this playing out? I mean, we've talked about this, and now we're going to get to the arguments, the oral arguments. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, they think the Supreme Court is going to duck. We all know there was a profound controversy about Citizens United, where the Supreme Court said, with a majority, that it isn't the corporations that have rights, First Amendment rights. It's the people. Corporations are basically a form in which a bunch of people, sometimes a few, sometimes thousands and thousands, do business, and those people have constitutional rights and they have First Amendment rights. I think, whatever the political controversy may be, I don't think the court cares about it. I think they have, and you and I have talked about this on most of the shows, this is a very strong First Amendment court. And I don't think I agree with Reuters that they're likely to duck this issue, because if they're going to say that corporations have a First Amendment right with respect to political speech, political advocacy, then why would they cut those rights in half and say it's only political speech, it's not religious freedom? We all know the First Amendment was very, very much about both. We know what this country was founded on, escaping religious persecution, being able to speak your own mind. So I think this court is deeply, deeply committed to those values. I don't think they're going to duck. We'll see what happens next week, and then, of course, ultimately when the opinion itself is written.
Yep, and I look forward to your critique and commentary when that does happen. And Kendall, as always, we thank you for your time, sir, and speak to you next week.
Okay, Steve. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Kendall Coffey, ladies and gentlemen, Spinning the Law. And, of course, I gratuitously throw in all the time that the book by the same name, Spinning the Law, a great book. Kendall Coffey's been involved in so many high-profile cases, including, I always get it wrong, Bush v. Gore, Gore v. Bush. I think it was Bush v. Gore. And in the Elian Gonzalez case and so many others. It's a fascinating read, Spinning the Law. All right, folks, when we come back, it's Gimme 5. That's right. And it's a segment we just instituted about a week ago where we take a particular topic and I give my take on it. I know you hate that, right? On the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax Television.
The Steve Malzberg